Hi. Have you considered the merits of whether there is a creator or not? Are you a person who is convinced there's no creator? Or have you kind of sat on the fence and said, maybe there's, maybe there isn't? I'm James Robertson. I've been walking with the creator for 33 years. I've heard him speak to me audibly. I've experienced miracles with him, tangible miracles, a car sliding off the road, gently lifted and placed at the foot of a 10-foot high embankment without rolling, and with my diary and pen still on the passenger seat. Many other experiences. So I believe I'm well qualified to suggest to you that it's worth believing that the creator exists. Why listen to this video, watch this video? I'm an engineer by training. I have a doctorate in engineering. I'm a former military commander, so I'm pretty rigorous about most of what I do in life. And ever since the Almighty spoke to me audibly in a locked room on the 12th of March, 1993, I've been progressively wondering, how do I express what I believe in a way that's easy for somebody else to receive and take on board? I think I'm there now. What I'm going to share with you in the next hour or two is a culmination and an outworking of years of thinking and variety of drafts and prototypes and presentations, culminating in this presentation, which has been exhaustively researched with Google Gemini AI over the internet. And why should you do it now? Why can't you put it off? Well, life is marching on. You're never going to get younger. One day, the end will come. You could be run over by a bus tomorrow. At that point, you hit a transition. You're either going to go one way or you're going to go the other way, and there will be nothing you can do when you realize that to change the direction you're going in. So I think it's important to listen to this. I've done my best to create something that's enrolling, that's informative, that answers every reasonable question that I can think of, such that I truly believe that what I'm presenting here will give you the best possible opportunity to make a really informed decision. So those are just a few images from the presentation, and I'm going to offer you what I call an engineering proof that the creator is real. And I'm going to suggest for your consideration that proof of creation is everywhere. I'm going to suggest that you stop guessing and discover the incontrovertible Google AI verified evidence that the creator is real. To recap, why should you watch this video? If you do not believe in the existence of the creator, or have been doubting his existence, or do not have a meaningful relationship with him, or don't know how to communicate your belief to others, this video is for you. Why should you listen to me? I speak to you not just as a believer, but as someone who's heard the creator's voice audibly and continues to hear it. In 1993, he spoke to me audibly, setting me on a 33-year journey of service, supported by supernatural evidence. I converse with him daily. As an engineer, I deal in facts and structural reality. As a servant of Father Yah, I deal in the absolute certainty of his existence. That's why I'm qualified to lead you through this evidence. Why this video? As an engineer with a doctorate, I've been seeking to understand the how of creation to prove the reality of the creator without relying solely on supernatural experiences, or James says so, or the Bible, or whatever. This presentation is the result of that quest. By leveraging the analytical power of Google Gemini to research every corner of human knowledge and its vast knowledge of the World Wide Web, A level of evidence has been uncovered that is mathematically and biologically undeniable. You're about to see proof of the Creator. It stands up to the most intense scrutiny. Why now? As I said a few minutes ago, every moment spent in doubt is a moment lost from your true purpose. Once you realize the Creator is real and that He's seeking you, everything changes. This isn't just about information, it's about your position for eternity. Personal relationship with the Creator qualifies you for a future exceptional authority and a glorious resurrected body and a life of great power and esteem. The evidence is huge and the rewards are eternal. But time is the only resource you cannot get back. I encourage you to take the step immediately and go for it. Your transformation starts the moment you press play. Are we an accident or a masterpiece? Today I'm moving past theory and looking at the raw data. We're going to examine the creative genius of a reality that is far too precise, too integrated, and too mathematical to be anything other than a design masterpiece. The question, is the evidence a chaotic explosion that got lucky, or is it a high-level engineering project? The evidence, from the microscopic outboard motor of a bacterium to the 60,000 miles of plumbing in your own body. The reality, mathematical impossibility is not a matter of opinion, it's a matter of numbers. So my goal is to present you with so much incontrovertible evidence that you will recognize the existence of the Creator. A bit about this presentation. It's long and it's detailed. My goal is to give you every possible angle on why you should believe in the Almighty Creator and what to do when you come to believe. I recognize that I may never get to speak to you personally and you may not be able to access other resources. So I'm treating this as a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to present to you. For this reason, I'm going into a lot of detail, but I will go over it at a headline level only. There's a link in the comments to download a PowerPoint show so that you can work through the detail at your convenience. And there's also a link to download this PowerPoint deck, which you're free to use in whatever way you want. Thank you for your understanding. So some experiential inputs to my life and my approach which inform this. First of all, engineering. Secondly, I was a military commander. Thirdly, I have a science degree and studied science throughout my time at school and university. And finally, business experience, all of which brings together these insights that I'm going to share with you. I want to talk about the Goldilocks principle, just right design. Just like the girl in the children's tale who rejected porridge because it was too hot or too cold, the universe and our planet seem to have been dialed into perfect, precise values. If any of these settings were a tiny bit too high or too low, life could not exist. A few examples. The Goldilocks zone, the location. Earth is at the perfect distance from the sun. Atmosphere. We have 21% oxygen. If it were 25%, fires would spontaneously erupt everywhere, and if it were 15%, humans would suffocate. Gravity. Gravity was slightly stronger, it would crush our bones and trap a thick, toxic atmosphere. If it were weaker, we'd lose our air to space. Goldilocks expansion of the universe. So part one, I'm going to look at proof of creation and proof of the existence of the mighty Creator, whose true name is Yah, the eternally self-existent. He's sometimes referred to Yahweh or Yahweh or Yahuwah, all meaning the same thing. Yah, the eternally self-existing. He's often wrongly referred to as God, the Lord, G_D, Hashem, Allah, etc. He hates those names. His true name is Yah, and I encourage you to use it. So let's start right at the absolutely basics of the basics, the atom, a masterpiece of microengineering. The atom is the basic building block of the universe, yet it is almost entirely empty space held together by invisible forces. Its structure reflects a level of precision engineering that allows matter to be both solid and dynamic. The impossible nucleus. The nucleus contains protons which all have a positive charge. Since like charges repel, the center of an atom should fly apart instantly, but it's held together by the strong nuclear force, a perfectly tuned superglue that only functions at microscopic distances. The digital identity. Every element is defined by its proton count, which shows that matter is built on a specific numbered system. The neutron buffer, the neutrons act as stabilizers. Tiny change would make the formation of stable matter impossible. The electron cloud of logic. Electrons do not just float around. They occupy specific energy levels or shells, allowing for the complex chemistry of life. 99.9% empty space. If an atom were expanded to the size of a football stadium, the nucleus would be the size of a small marble in the center, and the electrons would be like tiny gnats in the highest seats. The solid world we touch is actually a result of inversible force fields. The electromagnetic bond, the attraction between the negative electrons and the positive nucleus, is tuned to a precise frequency. This allows atoms to link hands to form molecules like water or DNA while remaining flexible enough to be rearranged during growth. Mathematical resonance. Invisible math proves the logic of the atom existed before the matter itself. An atom is a high-speed machine running on invisible laws. If the strength of the forces inside a single atom were changed by even 1%, the entire universe would either evaporate or collapse into a void. Folks, it's my contention that just this alone proves the existence of the Creator. But stay with me. I've got so much more to share with you. In molecules designed before matter could come into existence, you see water, iron, ore, etc. So let's look at the fine-tuning of molecular reality. The strong nuclear force that holds atoms core together, the electromagnetic force that controls how electrons bond to form molecules. If it was slightly different, chemical bonds would either never form or never break, making life's chemistry impossible. The ratio of electron to proton mass, this ratio must be precise for DNA and proteins to hold their shape. The probability of this ratio occurring by chance is estimated as 1 in 10 to the 37th power, or 1 followed by 37 zeros. In other words, impossible. Expansion rate of the universe. If the universe expanded 1 part in a million, billion faster or slower, matter would have either flown apart too fast to form atoms or collapsed back into a black hole instantly. To calculate the probability of every known molecule forming through random development, we have to look at the fine-tuning of the universe's laws. If the fundamental forces of physics were even slightly different, atoms couldn't bond and molecules would be physically impossible. Molecules don't just happen because of luck, they exist because the laws of physics were set to a specific frequency that allows matter to stick together. Sir Roger Penrose, a Nobel Prize-winning physicist, calculated that the low entropy state required for a universe to exist at all is 1 in 10 to the power of 10 to the 123rd power. It's infinitesimal. This number is so large that there aren't enough atoms in the universe to even write down all the zeros. In mathematical terms, the probability of all these molecules existing by random development is 0. Let's look at the periodic table of the elements, which is the fundamental building blocks in which the entire universe is built. And this had to be complete before anything could come into existence. The periodic table demonstrates orderly sorting of the universe's building blocks. The image illustrates how the universe is partitioned into 3 main chemical domains: metals, metalloids, and non-metals. This layout isn't just a human convenience, it reflects a physical reality. The zigzag line, the staircase, perfectly separates elements that give away electrons, metals, from those that crave them, not non-metals, creating the perfect tension required for all chemical reactions and life itself. So what we see in the periodic table is the blueprint of matter. Mathematical precision. Predictive power. When Mendeleev first drafted the table, he left gaps for elements that hadn't been discovered. He was able to predict their weight and color because the creative genius of the table's structure demanded they exist. The octet rule. Harmonic stability. The rule of 8 acts like musical octaves, dictating how atoms must dance together to form everything from salt to DNA. Periodic table is often described as the map of the universe. It isn't just a list of elements, it's a profound display of mathematical order and chemical predictability. The chemical alphabet. The table enables all chemistry, just as 26 letters create infinite literature. These 118 elements are the alphabet used to write the entire physical history of the universe. The carbon core. The table places carbon in a unique position that allows it to form stable, complex chains. Without the specific atomic placement, the building blocks of life would be physically impossible. Non-random ratios. If the mass of an electron changed a fraction, the periodic table would collapse into a chaotic mess that couldn't support matter. The probability of order. The chance of 118 distinct elements appearing with such perfect interlocking mathematical properties by random accident is zero. It's equivalent to a deck of cards being shuffled and falling into a perfectly numbered sequence by suit every single time for eternity. So the periodic table is not a human invention, it is a discovery of a pre-existing mathematical law. Its existence proves that the universe is built on a foundation of logic and intent rather than a random collision of particles. So I have to say again, evidence that the Creator exists. Then the miracle of water, 7 design wonders. Water is far more than a simple chemical. It's a highly tuned biological medium. From its rule-breaking density to its sensitivity to intention, every drop of water appears intentionally designed to be the cradle of life. And you see the molecular structure on the left there, and you see images there of different ice crystals formed when different language was spoken to water, ranging from beautiful crystals for truth and a jumbled mess for calling somebody a fool. So some factors about water, the Mickey Mouse geometry that is so specific in terms of how things work. The floating ice, the lifesaver, everything else gets denser as it freezes. Ice gets lighter and floats, providing an insulating layer over lakes, etc. The universal solvent, thanks to its polar shape, water can dissolve more substances than any other liquid. This allows it to carry life-sustaining minerals and nutrients through the ground and into every cell of your body. Water is the only substance that breaks almost every rule of chemistry to make life possible. Its miraculous nature stems from a unique V-shaped molecular design that allows it to behave unlike any other liquid in the universe. High heat capacity. Surface tension and suction. Water molecules stick together so strongly that they can defy gravity, pulling themselves hundreds of feet up from a tree's roots to its highest leaves through tiny capillary tubes. The three-phase masterpiece. Water is the only substance that exists naturally as a solid, liquid, and gas within the narrow temperature range of Earth. This triple-phase capability drives the entire water cycle, recycling the planet's resources through rain and snow. Emotional resonance, the Emoto research. Research by Japanese scientist Dr. Masaruto Emoto demonstrate that water senses and responds to human consciousness. We've looked at that. So let's look at the genius of carbon, why life depends on it. The four-handed bonder. Carbon has 4 valence electrons, meaning it can form 4 strong bonds simultaneously. This makes it the ultimate Lego brick of the universe, capable of building massive stable structures. Infinite chain building. It enables DNA, Goldilocks bond strength. Carbon's bonds are strong enough to hold a body together, yet flexible enough to be broken down and rebuilt during digestion and any energy production. Double and triple bond versatility, compatibility with the life suite. Carbon bonds perfectly with hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen. Together, these 4 elements form the language of biological information. It's stable in water, and it's the only logic for DNA. Carbon is often called the king of elements because its unique atomic structure makes it the only viable foundation for complex life. Without its specific placement on the periodic table, the chemistry of life would be physically impossible. Again, this speaks to a creative genius, a creator. Think about it. Download the PowerPoint or the show and go through all of those points in detail. The laws of physics, pre-existing blueprints. The law of gravity, this law determines the exact strength of attraction between all matter. If gravity was slightly stronger, the universe would have collapsed back into itself eons ago. Slightly weaker stars and planets could never have clustered together. The strong nuclear force, without this specific law in place, matter would simply fly apart into a chaotic subatomic mist. The electromagnetic force, this law dictates how light and electricity behave. It is fine-tuned to a degree of 1 part in 10 to the 40th power. If it were off by a hair, chemical bonding would fail and your fingers could never hold a pen. The universe operates on a set of fixed laws that must have been predetermined. For the physical world to exist, these mathematical rules had to be established before the first atom could ever form. The law of entropy, the second law of thermodynamics. This law ensures that energy flows in a specific direction from hot to cold. Without this preset arrow of time, the complex chemical reactions required for digestion and life would be impossible. The precision of the electron mass, the cosmological constant, the language of mathematics. The laws of physics are written in the language of maths. The fact that the universe follows consistent logical equations proves that the logic was established before the physical matter arrived to obey it. The laws of physics are not things made of matter, they are the invisible operating system that matter follows. You cannot have a functioning machine without the code being written first. So let's look at the equations of reality, mathematical genius. These arcanic formulae are the mathematical scaffolding of the universe. Formulae prove the universe follows strict pre-written equations. Folks, this is not my language. This is coming off the internet. This is the synthesis of the collective wisdom of the internet. First equation 1, E equals mc squared, mass energy equivalence. F equals ma, Newton's second law, force equals mass times acceleration. Ensuring that every movement from a falling leaf to a spinning galaxy is predictable and mathematically consistent. Universal gravitation, the inverse square law, is the only reason planets can maintain stable circular orbits instead of spiraling into the sun. Fine structure content, alpha, approximately 1/137. This magic number determines the strength of the interaction between life and matter. If it were even slightly different, stars would not shine and atoms would not be able to hold on to their electrons. The speed of light, Planck's constant. The law sets the scale for the subatomic world. It ensures that energy comes in specific packets, quanta, preventing the ultraviolet catastrophe where all matter would instantly radiate away its energy and disappear. The logical priority of code. These formulae are not made of atoms. They are the invisible rules atoms obey. The fact that the universe can be described by simple, eloquent equations proves a mathematical mind behind the physical curtain. Equations like E equals mc squared weren't invented by Einstein, they were discovered. They're the pre-existing source code that was running before the universe powered on. Let's look at the engineering of the universe. The Earth is just one of an estimated 100 billion to 3.2 trillion planets in the Milky Way galaxy alone. Here's a view from Earth with the Hubble's telescope. Just see how many stars and everything else just in that one little photo frame. The images highlight the staggering scale of our galaxy and the observable universe. To translate these massive numbers into evidence for creative genius, we look at the physical requirements and the fine-tuning necessary to hold such a vast system together. First of all, the massive scale and precise order. The image notes 2 trillion galaxies, each with billions of stars, for this to be a stable cosmos rather than a chaotic explosion. The expansion rate, the cosmological constant, had to be tuned to 1 part in 10 to the 120. The Goldilocks placement, the solar anchor, a slightly larger star would burn out too fast for life. A slightly smaller one would require Earth to be so close we would be tightly locked, one side always burning, one side always frozen. Mathematical consistency, the spiral shape seen in the image follows the Fibonacci sequence in the golden ratio. The same mathematical signature appears in snail shells and flower petals, demonstrating the universal geometric blueprint. information before matter. Before these 3.2 trillion planets could form, the laws of gravity and thermodynamics had to be coded. Matter cannot follow a law that doesn't exist yet, evidencing that the software of physics preceded the hardware of the stars. Problem of nothing. An external non-material source of power that exists outside the physical constraints of time and space, the interdependence of systems. The universe is not just big, it's an integrated system of trillions of parts moving in mathematical harmony. The odds of these 2 trillion galaxies forming a stable life-permitting environment by accident are zero, proving instead a masterpiece of intentional cosmic scale engineering by a master architect engineer, etc. The fine-tuned universe, the Goldilocks physics. Fine-tuning of the universe refers to the discovery that the fundamental constants of physics are dialed to such a precise degree that if any one of them were altered by even a hair's breadth, matter, stars, and life would be physically impossible. So more evidence of the Creator. Strong nuclear force, the electromagnetic force, the cosmological constant. We've touched on these before. Gravity's precision. If the force of gravity were altered by 0. all those zeros 1%, stars like our sun would either be too unstable to shine or too short-lived for life to develop. The electron to proton mass ratio, the carbon resonance, pre-calculated mathematical miracle, low entropy, the Penrose number, the precision required for the initial state of the universe to allow for any order at all is 1 in 10 to the power of 10 to the 123rd power, a number larger than all the atoms in existence. So the universe is set up. Thousands of independent physical dials have been set to the exact position required for life. Statistically, the odds of this occurring by accident are zero, pointing to an intentional cosmic scale engineering project. The solar system, precision engineering in motion. Our solar system is a masterclass in stability and precision. It isn't just a collection of rocks floating in space, it's a finely tuned life support system where every planet plays a specific role in protecting Earth. The solar anchor. The sun contains 99.8% of the total mass of the entire solar system. This massive concentration of gravity creates a gravitational anchor that keeps all 8 planets in stable, predictable orbits for millions of years rather than drifting into deep space. The Goldilocks zone. Earth is positioned at the perfect distance from the sun. Jupiter, the cosmic shield. Jupiter is a massive gas giant with a gravity so strong it acts as a vacuum cleaner for the solar system. It captures or deflects thousands of asteroids and comets that would otherwise strike Earth, protecting us from constant extinction events. The moon's stabilizing hand. Consistent, predictable seasons rather than chaotic climate shifts. Orbital harmony, a mathematical resonance that maintains stability over vast periods of time. The invisible shield, the magnetosphere, we'll talk about that in a bit more detail in a minute. The sorted design. The solar system is organized with small rocky planets near the sun and large gas giants further out. This specific sorting prevents the larger planets from gravitationally disrupting the delicate orbits of the inner world where life exists. The solar system isn't a product of a chaotic explosion, it is a highly integrated machine. Every planet from the smallest moon to the largest gas giant contributes to a stabler environment that allows life on Earth to flourish. Again, Creator. Earth, the optimized life support system. Planet Earth is often called the privileged planet because it possesses a rare combination of features that make it a perfect home for life. The atmospheric mix we've talked about, the magnetic shield, this invisible shield deflects lethal solar wind and radiation that would otherwise strip away our atmosphere. The tidal anchor, our unusually large moon, stabilizes Earth's tilt. The liquid water cycle. Earth is the only planet where water exists as a solid, liquid, and gas simultaneously. This triple point allows for a global recycling system that purifies water and distributes it to the land as rain and snow. The protective crust, the sun's perfect light, the gas giant guards. Earth is not just a rock in space, it is a complex integrated machine. Every layer from the core to the atmosphere is fine-tuned to keep life thriving against impossible odds. The magnetic field, the Earth's invisible shield, and you see some images there of that. The Earth is protected by an invisible high-tech deflector shield known as the magnetosphere. Without this precisely tuned field, our atmosphere would be stripped away by solar winds, and life would be scarred from the surface by lethal radiation, and so would never have come into existence. The dynamo engine deep inside the Earth, a rotating core of liquid iron, acts as a massive electrical generator. This geodynamo creates a magnetic field that extends thousands of miles into space, providing a global security perimeter, deflecting the solar wind, preserving the atmosphere. The magnetic field is the only reason we still have an oxygen-rich atmosphere to breathe and water to drink. The Van Allen belt, the field captures dangerous cosmic radiation in 2 donut-shaped zones far above the Earth. This trap prevents high-energy particles from reaching the Earth and damaging the DNA of living organisms. The navigation map. Many animals, including birds, sea turtles, and bees, possess biological compasses. They use the Earth's magnetic lines to navigate thousands of miles with GPS-like precision, showing a design that links the planet to the creature. The aurora, the warning light. When the shield successfully deflects a solar storm, we see the northern and southern lights. Goldilocks strength. If the field were much stronger, it would disrupt the migration of animals and interfere with the atmosphere. If it were weaker, it wouldn't stop the radiation. Its current strength is just right to support a thriving biosphere. We live in a cosmic shooting gallery surrounded by lethal radiation and solar storms. The fact that our planet has a built-in self-generating magnetic shield that perfectly preserves our air and guides our wildlife is a primary indicator of intentional protective design. DNA, the Universal Digital Operating Manual. Here you see a picture of DNA. This common technology that enables the entire plant, animal, and human world to exist and reproduce. It was required before a single plant or animal could come into existence. DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid, is the universal language of life. It acts as the digital operating manual for every living thing, from the smallest blade of grass to the blue whale and the human being. While the stories written in the manuals are different, the code itself uses the exact same chemical alphabet. First of all, a 4-letter digital code. DNA uses just 4 chemical letters, A, T, C, and G, like the ones and zeros of a computer's binary code. The sequence of these letters provides the specific instructions for building and operating every living organism. Staggering data density. DNA is the most compact information storage system in the universe. A single teaspoon of DNA could theoretically store all the digital information currently held by the entire human race, with room to spare. Software before hardware. Before a plant can grow or a heart can beat, the code must exist. This follows the logical law of information theory. A complex code, software, never writes itself. It always requires an intelligent source. The error correction genius, specialized protons, scan the code as it is copied, cutting out errors and repairing typos to ensure that life remains stable across generations. Irreducible complexity. For DNA to work, it needs proteins to read it, but for proteins to exist, they must be coded for by DNA. Neither can function without the other, implying that they were powered on as a complete integrated system. The blueprint for everything. In a plant, DNA codes for photosynthesis. In a bird, for the hollow bones. In a human, codes for the cerebral cortex. The same operating system is flexible enough to run any biological hardware. Non-material information. While DNA is made of matter, the information it carries is non-material. Just as the meaning of a book isn't found in the ink or paper, the genius of life isn't in the chemicals, but in the message they carry. DNA is the source code of the universe. It's a universal high-density digital language that proves life is built on information rather than just a random collection of chemicals. And I have to ask you, that proves to me, at any rate, the existence of the Creator. Information theory, the maths of the DNA code. Information theory is a branch of mathematics and engineering that treats information as a distinct, measurable entity. When applied to biology, it reveals that DNA is not just a bunch of chemicals, but a sophisticated high-level language. And the law of mathematics states that information never arises from physical matter alone. So we see software versus hardware. We see a probability of specificity. A 3 billion letter code like the human genome isn't just long, it's specifically complex. Randomly shuffling letters for billions of years would produce noise, gibberish, not a functional operating system that builds a human brain. The law of linguistic symmetry. DNA uses an alphabet, nucleotides, grammar, codons, and syntax as genes. Mathematically, every known language or code in the history of the universe has an intelligent source. No exception has ever been observed. High-density data storage, we've talked about that. Such extreme packing and compression are hallmarks of intentional high-level engineering. The sender-receiver requirement. DNA is useless without the complex proteins that decode it, demonstrating that both parts of the conversation were created simultaneously. Zero entropy information. For DNA to maintain and copy its message without dissolving into chaos requires a massive pre-calculated input of order. The cybernetic loop. DNA uses feedback loops like a thermostat to regulate body temperature, growth, and repair. In engineering, these control systems always require a designer to set the parameters and goal of the system. If you saw hello written in the sand, you wouldn't attribute it to the waves. You'd know a mind wrote it. DNA is 3 billion hellos long, perfectly formatted into a functioning body. Math tells us that code is always the product of the mind, the creator. The diversity and creative genius of plants. And there you see just a bit of the diversity of plants. Algae, sea and aquatic, 44,000 species. Bryophytes, mosses, 22,000. Pterophytes, ferns, 13,000. Gymnosperms, conifers, 1,100. Monocots, grasses and lilies, 81,000. Dicots, hardwoods and flowers, 250,000. Angiosperms, marine and wetlands, 410. Plant diversity is a cornerstone of the natural world with approximately 400,000 known species showcasing a wide array of reproductive and structural designs. Some unusual plant adaptations, carnivorous traps of Venus flytrap. A genius that uses a sophisticated counting method to ensure it only closes on live prey, not falling debris. Desert survival, the Seguro cactus. Prevent water loss, it performs CAM photosynthesis. Opening its pores, stomata only at night when it's cool, rather than during the scorching day. The genius of creation in plants, plant diversity, the jump from simple algae to complex fruit-bearing trees requires a massive software upgrade in DNA. The odds of these botanical systems evolving by accident are so low, they're considered mathematically non-existent. The miracle of the seed, encapsulated genius. The seed is a biological time capsule that contains everything necessary to build a massive organism, from the physical building blocks to the digital instruction, all in a state of suspended animation. It is one of the most efficient packaging and survival systems in the natural world. A complete blueprint. Every seed contains a dormant embryo, which is a tiny preformed version of the adult plant, including a root and a shoot. The plan for a 300-foot tree is fully present before the first drop of water is the survival kit, the endosperm, suspended animation. Seeds can remain dormant for years, for decades, even centuries. Some Judean date palm seeds germinated after 2,000 years. They possess a genius internal clock that prevents them from growing until the temperature and moisture are exactly right. Productive hull, the seed code. The digital weight command requires a sophisticated interaction between the environment and the DNA code. Engineered dispersion, seeds with wings, burrs, and all sorts of things. The mathematical growth law. As soon as the seed sprouts, it follows the Fibonacci sequence in its leaf and branch placement. This ensures that every new leaf gets the maximum amount of sunlight, showing a geometric intent from the very first sprout. The seed is the ultimate proof of foresight. It is a system designed not for the now, but for a future that hasn't happened yet, providing the food, the protection, and the code needed to start life from scratch. The diversity and creative genius of animals, and you see a few samples there. I couldn't resist that. So cute. Little polar bear cub. Corals and jellyfish, 15,000 species. Mollusks, 85,000 species. Arthropods, 1,100,000 species. Bees, dragonflies, lobsters. Fish, 34,000. Reptiles and amphibians, 19,000. Birds, 10,000. Mammals, 6,400. Blue whales, elephants, wolves. Animal diversity highlights exceptional structural engineering, from the microscopic builders of the ocean to the massive wanderers of the plains. Some unusual animal adaptations. The master of disguise, the mimic octopus, possesses a dynamic brain that decides which animal to impersonate based on which predator is currently threatening it. The high-pressure hunter, the pistol shrimp. This tiny crustacean carries a weapon that rivals a high-powered rifle. One of its claws is designed as a biological pistol. Pistol shrimpoluminescence, the light produced by the bubble, is a phenomenon physics are still studying today. And it all speaks to the genius of the creator. So animal complexity, from the mimic octopus's shape-shifting to the pistol shrimp's sonic blast. These biological weapons require perfect simultaneous parts. Math shows that random mutations cannot build such integrated systems in the time the universe has created. The synergy of domestic design. And there you see a few domestic animals. Domestic animals represent a unique synergy of design. Unlike wild animals, these species possess specific physical and behavioral traits that are perfectly calibrated to serve human needs, creating a partnership that has shaped the history of the world. The horse, engineered for transport, capability lacking in almost all wild relatives like the zebra. The sheep, living textile factory and source of meat. The cow, high-efficiency food processor. Cow converts grass, which humans cannot digest, into high-protein milk and meat. Their calm, herd-minded temperament is a specific behavioral design that allows for safe management by humans. The dog, the interspecies partner. Dogs are the only animals with a pre-programmed social intelligence to read human facial expressions and gestures, to be friends and companions. The honeybee, the industrial pollinator, showcasing a three-way partnership between insect, plant, and man. The camel, the desert specialist. The cat, precision pest controller and pet. The domestic docility design. Most domestic animals share a biological trait known as domestication syndrome. This specific genetic softening makes them uniquely capable of living in harmony with humans, a trait not found in the wild. Domestic animals are not just tamed wild animals, they are biological partners. Their physical strength and behavioral docility are specifically tuned to integrate with human civilization, providing a bridge between the wild earth and the human home. Happened by accident? I don't think so. The miracle of flight, just right engineering. The design of a bird for flight is a masterclass in aeronautical engineering. It requires a simultaneous suite of features, including skeletal, muscular, and aerodynamic systems that must all work in perfect harmony for the first takeoff to ever be possible. Hollow honeycomb bones. Birds' bones are not solid. They're filled with air pockets and reinforced with internal struts. Four-chambered supercharger. The heart beats up to 1,000 times per minute, far exceeding any land-based animal. One-way airflow lungs. Unique system of air sacs that allows for continuous one-way flow of air through the lungs. Aerofoil feathers. The supracoitus pulley. Unlike humans, a bird's upstroke muscle is located on the chest. Uses a brilliant tendon and pulley system to pull the wing up from below, keeping the bird's center of gravity low and stable. The furcular wishbone spring, the avian GPS magneto perception. As we noted with the Earth's magnetic field, birds possess a quantum compass in their eyes and beaks. This allows them to see the invisible magnetic lines of the planet and navigate across featureless oceans. Flight is not an add-on feature, it's an integrated system of irreducible complexity. You cannot evolve a wing 10% at a time unless the hollow bones, the pulley muscles, and the high-speed heart are all present at once. The bird is simply a grounded target for predators. Deep-sea bioluminescence as creative art. In the crushing pressure and the internal darkness of the midnight zone, life doesn't just survive, it creates its own life. Bioluminescence is a breathtaking display of biological art that functions as a high-tech tool for survival, communication, and hunting. In the deep sea, beauty and engineering are one. Bioluminescence is nearly 100% efficient, producing light without wasting heat. It is a biological light show that functions as a high-tech survival suite. Living light, cold chemistry, precision camouflage, counter-illumination, the angler's lure. This lure is actually a symbiotic home for glowing bacteria designed to entice prey directly into the fish's mouth. How did those two animals know to work together? Defensive fireworks, a vampire squid, the burglar alarm effect, certain jellyfish glow brightly when touched. Species-specific signaling. Many deep-sea creatures use light signatures, flashes, and patterns to find mates. These are pre-programmed optical codes that allow individuals to recognize their own kind in a vast pitch-black ocean. Red light, snappers, snipers. Most sea life cannot see red light, however the dragonfish produces its own red bioluminescence. Bioluminescence is not a random byproduct of chemistry, it's a highly integrated functional art form. From invisible cloaking to optical signaling, these systems represent a level of electronic-like engineering that illuminates the creative genius of the abyss. The bacterial flagellum, nature's outboard motor. The bacterial flagellum is widely considered one of the most striking examples of irreducible complexity in the biological world. It's a literal high-speed rotary engine that made entirely of proteins operating at a scale where human engineering cannot even begin to compete. Mechanical components, all assembled with atomic precision, high-speed performance. Some flagella can rotate at speeds up to 100,000 RPM. With size, this makes it one of the fastest machines in the known universe, allowing bacteria to move at extreme speeds relative to their body length. Instant reverse, water-cooled efficiency, automated self-assembly, irreducible complexity. The motor requires approximately 40 different proteins to function. If even one of the core proteins, like the hook of the stator, is missing, the motor does not work poorly, it does not work at all, providing zero survival benefit. Universal design. This rotary engine is found in a vast array of bacteria, yet there is no simpler version of the motor found in nature. It appears in the fossil record as a fully formed high-tech machine from the very beginning. If you found a rotary engine in the dirt, you'd never assume it evolved there by wind and rain. The bacterial flagellum is a literal machine, a literal engine, smaller than a cell, that follows every known rule of mechanical engineering. The interdependence of ecosystems, the grand design. Ecosystems are not just collections of animals and plants, they're finely balanced living machines where thousands of different species depend on one another for survival. This global interdependence demonstrates a unified large-scale design where every part was created to serve a function within the whole. Pollination partnership. Roughly 75% of the world's flowering plants and 35% of food crops rely on animal pollinators, bees, birds, bats. Without the specific creative genius of the bee to collect nectar, the plants would fail to reproduce and the animals would starve. The oxygen-carbon cycle, a global life support system that must be balanced across the entire planet to work. Mycorrhizal network. predator-prey equilibrium, the scavenger cleanup crew. Without this waste management design, life would be choked by its own debris. Coral reef architecture. Mutualistic genius builds the most diverse ecosystems on Earth from simple calcium keystone species. Certain animals like the beaver physically re-engineer the land to create wetlands that support thousands of other species. The presence of just one design behavior can transform a dry valley into a thriving multi-species paradise. The independence of ecosystems. An ecosystem is like a high-tech watch. You cannot remove one gear and expect it to keep time. The fact that thousands of unrelated species just happen to provide exactly what the others need points to a single master-level blueprint creator. So what do you think? Did this all happen randomly, or is it the work of a genius architect and engineer, a creator who conceptualized, designed, prototyped, and built this amazing array of all that we've examined? I find it inconceivable that a person could listen to what I've shared so far and decide that the creator does not exist. In the sections that follow, I will explore further evidence of creation, evidence of the existence of Yah, the eternally self-existent, and then various historical and other issues. Why I believe, my personal experience. On the 12th of March 1993, in a locked hotel room, planning suicide, the Almighty Creator spoke to me audibly, so that I knew with absolute certainty that He is real and that I was going down the wrong road and headed for hell. I turned around and set about serving Him faithfully and seeking to draw close to Him, something that I've managed to do to various levels in the ensuing 33 years. Since then, I've had numerous supernatural experiences, including an entire assembly of people who fell to the floor crying out and repenting of their sins under the power of the Spirit of Yah. I talk to Him constantly throughout the day, and I involve Him in everything I do. He is my closest friend. 25th of December 1993, a message for an Anglican priest, a few personal experiences. For an Anglican priest and his wife, Father gave me a message. I resisted. I doubted I was hearing Him. The message was joyfully received as an answer in prayer, and that gave me much more confidence that I was hearing clearly. Early morning of 2nd January 1994, Father puts his hand on me. Deeply impacted by a book describing an intense encounter with the Spirit of Yah, I went to bed and prayed repeatedly for a similar experience. My bedroom was filled with a roaring wind, and I was pressed into the bed. When I awoke, I had a power anointing, started to work miracles, and had Father speak through me. Car carried by messengers, angels, speeding on a winding mountain road. I rounded a bend. There was mud on the road. I lost control. The car slid sideways off the road. I cried out. Father's messengers caught the car and gently deposited it at the foot of a 10-foot steep slope. The car should have rolled sideways. My diary and pen were on the passenger seat, were undisturbed, and I was unhurt. Malawi 94. Assembly falls under the power of the Spirit of Yah. Teaching in an assembly in Malawi, the power of Yah flowed through me. Almost the entire congregation fell to the ground, sobbing and confessing their sins without me touching them. Malawi 94. Yah speaks through me. Meeting with an elder of the church, Yah tells me to minister to him. I stand up and walk towards him. The strength of the anointing Spirit of Yah on me knocked him to the floor when I was about 4 feet from him, and Yah spoke through me for about 20 minutes. This was repeated for the other two men, and then He spoke to me through my own voice. Day of Atonement 2014, from August to December, after 2 sets of 7 3-day fasts, worshipping for 2 hours a day and focusing most of my time on Father, I was hearing Him so clearly that I was able to take dictation on the website. This is on the website on the page Important Insights from Yah 2014. In between that, things happened, things went wrong, I made mistakes, things that nobody could teach me, and I lost those anointings. So I don't operate in those powers today. Why I believe, personal experience, many other experiences, to the point where I have absolutely total certainty of the reality of the Creator and that He earnestly desires a deep personal relationship with you. And I have total confidence in the accuracy of this message. Where did Yah come from? If you're not yet convinced, one of the questions that may be holding you back is if the Creator exists and is so knowledgeable and talented, where did he come from? Answer: he says he's eternally self-existing. He's always existed. That may be difficult for you to accept, but consider the alternative is that everything randomly self-invented itself, or that Mother Nature created it. The problem is, if you believe in Yah, you get the opportunity to spend eternity with him in heaven. Whereas if you believe this is all self-invented by Mother Nature, you get to become an ancestor spirit, in other words, a demon. I know which I prefer. A prayer on coming to belief. Father Yah, in our belief you exist. I commit my life to you. Please accept me. Amen. It's as simple as that. Just acknowledge him. Receive him. He wants to be in you. He wants to be with you. There's much more information to follow, including detailed spiritual information and a more detailed prayer. So the Creator desires friends. Let's look at humankind. Human distinction designed for purpose. Human beings possess a suite of creative genius features that separate them from every other life form. These distinctions are not just physical, but also intellectual and spiritual, allowing humans to dominate and understand the world they inhabit. The power of abstract thought, the complexity of language, the artisan's hand. Mathematical consciousness, moral and ethical agency. Humans are governed by an internal moral compass. We're the only beings that ask why and should I, making decisions based on concepts of justice, altruism, and self-sacrifice, rather than just instinct. Upright bipedalism, creative dominion. Humans are the only species that re-engineer the planet. Instead of just adapting to an environment, we create technology from fire to the internet to bend the environment to our will, reflecting the creative mind that formed us. Humans are not just biological machines. They're the only beings capable of recognizing the design of the universe. We are the observers who turn the reality of creation into understood science. Humans as spiritual beings beyond the physical. Beyond physical biology, humans possess a spiritual architecture that allows us to connect with the non-material world. These traits serve no survival purpose in terms of eating or breeding, but they define the core of the human experience. The search for meaning. Unlike any other creature, humans are driven by a restless why. We seek a higher purpose for our existence, evidencing we're hardwired to find a connection to our origin. The concept of eternity, a spirit that feels at home in the infinite. Aesthetic appreciation. Its hunger for beauty is a spiritual sense that recognizes the artistic genius behind the natural world. We move to tears by a sunset, a symphony, or a painting. Transcendented altruism. Humans often sacrifice their lives for strangers or abstract ideals like truth or freedom. This contradicts the biological urge for self-preservation, pointing to a higher moral law. The internal conscience, we experience guilt and shame or peace and joy, based on a moral code that feels objective and external. This internal compass demonstrates that we are accountable to a higher standard of good. The capacity for worship. Every human culture in history has practiced some form of worship or ritual. This universal Yah-shaped vacuum, evidence of pre-programmed desire to communicate with the Creator. Creative inspiration. We don't just calculate solutions, we receive inspirations, acting as a bridge between the physical and the divine. If humans were purely biological accidents, we would only care about survival. The fact that we crave meaning, beauty, and justice proves we are spiritual beings living in a designed reality. The human body, a masterpiece of integrated systems. The human body is an integrated system of 37 trillion cells functioning as a high-tech performance machine that far exceeds any human-made technology in efficiency and self-maintenance. The self-healing machine, the command center, the brain containing 86 billion neurons. The brain is the most complex object in the known universe. It processes millions of signals per second, managing everything from unconscious heartbeats to the heights of philosophical thought. The infinite plumbing, circulation. Blood vessels stretch 60,000 miles. Optical genius, eyes, versatile structural versatility, the skeleton. Chemical manufacturing, metabolism. The body is a walking laboratory. It takes raw materials, food, and converts them into instant energy, structural tissue, and complex hormones, all while maintaining a steady internal temperature. Digital blueprints, DNA. Every cell contains a complete copy of your unique code. If the DNA in one person were uncoiled, it would reach the sun and back 60 times, containing enough information to fill thousands of libraries. The human body is not a collection of separate parts, it's an interdependent system. If the heart doesn't pump, the brain doesn't think. If the lungs don't breathe, the heart stops. This level of total integration points to a single, unified design, a creator. The spectrum of scare. The spectrum of care, specialists for a masterpiece. The existence of a vast specialized healthcare ecosystem is a testament to the staggering complexity of the human being. Because every facet of our biology and spirit is so intricately designed, it requires a dedicated army of experts to maintain and care for each specific system. System technicians, medical specialists, molecular analysts, analysts, pathology and genetics, the architects of movement, rehabilitation, sensory engineers, ophthalmology and audiology, guardians of the mind, psychiatry and psychology, spiritual support, chaplaincy and holistic care. They address the yar-shaped vacuum and the need for meaning, especially during life's most critical transition. The integrated hub, general practice. The fact that it takes over 100 different medical and spiritual disciplines to care for one person is a direct indicator of our amazing complexity. We are not simple accidents. We are masterpieces that require a lifetime of expert maintenance. Human brain, the ultimate command center. The human brain is the most complex arrangement of matter in the known universe. It functions as a biological supercomputer that operates on less power than a dim light bulb, while outperforming the world's most advanced artificial intelligence. Neural connectivity, 86 billion neurons making trillions of connections, synapses. The brain has more wiring than all the computers and internet connections on Earth combined. Massive parallel processing. The brain handles millions of data streams every second without overheating. Neuroplasticity, self-rewiring. It is a dynamic living hardware responds to the software of thought. Information storage capacity. The estimates indicate that the brain storage capacity is roughly 2.5 petabytes, enough to hold 3 million hours of high-definition video. It organizes this data for instant retrieval through complex associative memory. Efficiency genius, a supercomputer capable of similar calculations would require a dedicated power plant and massive cooling system. The blood-brain barrier, this precision security system, ensures the delicate chemical balance required for thought is never compromised. Consciousness in the eye. Beyond electrical signals, the brain produces subjective experience. Science cannot explain how salty tissues and electricity create love, justice, or self-awareness, pointing to a reality that transcends mere chemistry. The brain is not just an organ, it's a universal interface. It translates physical light into vision, vibration into music, and chemical signals into the profound experience of being alive. And it also acts as a transmitter and receiver between your spirit and the body. The nervous system, the high-speed data highway. The nervous system is the body's high-speed information superhighway. It functions as an integrated electrical network. It allows the brain to communicate with 37 trillion cells in real time. Lightning transmission, massive wiring network. If all the nerves in the human body were joined end to end, they would stretch approximately 45 miles. Synaptic gap. Signals jump between nerve cells across trillions of tiny gaps called synapses. Autonomous intelligence. The system is split into voluntary and autonomic branches. While you think about moving your hand, the autonomic system manages your heartbeat, digestion, breathing, without you ever having to remember to do so. Reflex arc. Some genius circuits are built directly into the spinal cord. These reflex arcs allow the body to react to danger before the brain even processes the thought, providing a pre-programmed emergency survival mechanism. Precision sensors. The system provides big data from 5 distinct sensors simultaneously, translates physical vibrations into chemical molecules into smell, and light waves into a 3D mental map of the world. Electrical reliability. Every nerve fiber is insulated. The nervous system is a masterpiece of electrical engineering. It's a dual-layered network that handles both conscious commands and subconscious life support, integrated so perfectly that the transition between thought and action is instantaneous. Again, it speaks to a creator. The human skeleton, a masterpiece of structural engineering. The human skeleton is far more than a simple coat hanger for our muscles. It's a dynamic living framework engineered for strength, protection, and mineral storage. Strength to weight ratio. Bone is essentially a composite material. Pound for pound, it's stronger than steel and more durable than reinforced concrete, yet light enough to allow for amazing speed and agility. The protective vaults, the cranium and the rib cage. The living factory. Bones are not dead rocks, they're biological factories. The marrow inside your bones produces approximately 2 million red blood cells every second, acting as the primary manufacturing site for your blood supply. The articulated joint system. Our 206 bones are connected by joints lubricated with synovial fluid. This fluid is so efficient that its friction coefficient is lower than ice on ice, allowing for a lifetime of smooth operation. Mineral reserve bank, S-curved spine. Dynamic remodeling. The skeleton is constantly re-engineering itself. Through a process called remodeling, the body replaces the entire skeleton roughly every 10 years, thickening bones in areas of high stress to prevent failure. The skeleton is an active, self-repairing structure. It provides a rigid frame for movement, while simultaneously acting as a chemical warehouse and a biological factory. The human eye, an optical masterpiece. The human eye is often cited as the ultimate example of irreducible complexity. It's a high-resolution, self-focusing, dual-lens camera system that translates light into a biological data stream for the brain. The real-time autofocus. The eye's crystalline shapes change shape instantly to shift focus from a distant mountain to a handheld needle. This dynamic accommodation is faster and more precise than the most advanced digital camera. Automatic aperture, high resolution sensor. Automatic maintenance. Averted vision genius. The retina is designed for a fovea for sharp central detail and a peripheral area for motion detection. This allows the eye to alert the brain to movement out of the corner of the eye for survival. Binocular depth positioning. By two cameras spaced slightly apart, the brain calculates the stereoscopic 3D vision. This allows us to judge distances with exceptional accuracy, a requirement for everything from hunting to driving. Instant processing. The eye processes 1.5 million messages simultaneously. The genius is not just in the eye itself, but in its perfect integration with the visual cortex, which flips the upside-down image from the lens to the correct orientation immediately. The eye is an integrated system where the lens, iris, retina, and brain must all work together perfectly from the start. If any single part is missing or misaligned, the entire system provides zero benefit, pointing to a unified design. The human heart, the living engine. The human heart is a biological marvel of endurance and efficiency. It's a self-regulating high-pressure pump. It begins working before you're born and does not stop for a single second till the end of life. Unmatched endurance. The heart beats approximately 100,000 times a day, pumping over 2,000 gallons of blood. Over a lifetime, it performs over 2.5 billion beats without ever needing a cool down or mechanical service. Dual pump design, actually 2 plant pumps in one. Self-generating electricity. The heart does not wait for a command for the brain to beat. It has its own built-in spark plug. called the SA node, the natural pacemaker, which generates its own electrical impulses to keep the rhythm. Dynamic output, fluid engineering, valves, the coronary network, emotional interface, beyond plumbing. The heart is uniquely sensitive to the spirit. It reacts instantly to fear, joy, and love, proving it is deeply integrated into the human emotional and spiritual experience, not just the physical one. The heart is the only engine in the world that can run for 80 plus years without a single pause. Its combination of self-starting electricity, one-way valves, and dynamic speed control makes it a pinnacle of biological engineering. Human lungs, high-performance air intake. If the heart is the body's engine, the lungs are its high-performance air intake and exhaust systems. They don't just move air, they are biological gas exchange stations that process oxygen with exceptional speed and mathematical efficiency. Tennis court surface area, the fusion miracle, the walls of the alveoli are only 1 cell thick. Its ultra-thin design allows oxygen to jump into your blood and carbon dioxide to jump out in about half a second, proving highly optimized engineering for speed. Vacuum pump design, the diaphragm, chemical anti-collapse surfactants. Lungs are moist and water tension would normally make the tiny air sacs stick shut. The body secretes a magic chemical called a surfactant that breaks surface tension, ensuring your lungs don't collapse with every breath. Self-cleaning filters, asymmetrical precision, space for the heart. Real-time sensors. The brain monitors your blood chemistry 24/7. If carbon dioxide levels rise slightly, the nervous system instantly triggers the intake to speed up, maintaining a flawless chemical balance without you ever thinking about it. Lungs are a masterpiece of gas exchange engineering. Every breath requires the simultaneous cooperation of vacuum, physics, ultra-thin membranes, and chemical lubricants, a perfectly integrated system designed to power the engine of life. Clearly, not something that evolved incrementally, something that was created, fully powered on, working. The genius of the human hand. The power precision paradox, the same hand that can swing a 10-pound sledgehammer with bone-shattering force can instantly transition to plucking a single fine hair or performing neurosurgery with a scalpel. Tactile feedback and sensory eyes. Our fingertips contain thousands of mechanoreceptors like Meissner's corpuscles that allow a pianist or violinist to feel the exact vibration and tension of a string, adjusting pressure in milliseconds to create art. The opposable thumb and the power grip, unlike most animals, our thumb can touch every other finger, enabling the precision grip required to write with a pen or paint a masterpiece, and the power grip required to operate heavy tools. Human hand is a masterpiece of multifunctional engineering capable of shifting from microscopic delicacy to high impact force without a single physical modification. This versatility demonstrates a level of integrated design that refutes the concept of random development accidents. Kinesthetic memory and fluidity, and universal tool adaptability, structural integrity and durability, non-verbal genius, sign and gesture. Beyond physical labor, the fingers serve as an organ of communication. Through sign language or subtle gestures, the hand can express complex philosophy, emotion, and abstract thought, bridging the gap between the physical and the intellectual. The mathematical improbability of chance. The protein challenge. The chance of forming just one functional protein for a hand is like a blindfolded person picking one specific grain of sand out of all the beaches on Earth, repeated billions of times. Integrated engineering for the hand to work, the bone, frame, tendons, cables, and nerves electrical must appear and connect at the same time. If any part is missing, the whole system is useless. The clock problem. Genetic changes happen slowly. To wait for the thousands of lucky mutations needed to build a precision thumb would take trillions of years, much longer than the universe has ever existed. Wiring diagram. Each fingertip has 2,500 sensors. The odds of these wiring themselves directly to the brain by accident is like a tornado flying through a junkyard and perfectly assembling a Boeing 747. The human hand's extreme complexity far exceeds the statistically impossible threshold of 1 in 10 to the 50, demonstrating that it is the result of intentional high-level engineering rather than random chance. The structure demonstrates deliberate design over coincidence. The human hand, with its 2,500 sensors per fingertip and 27-bone frame, the hand is a masterpiece of engineering. Its probability of appearing by chance is less than 1 in 1 followed by 50 zeros. The universal definition of impossible. The genius of sexual reproduction, integrated from day one. Sexual reproduction represents one of the most profound challenges to the theory of random development. For any species to survive, two distinct and compatible versions of that species, male and female, had to emerge simultaneously in the same location with perfectly interlocking biology and matching genetic software from the very first generation. The all-or-nothing hardware. Reproduction requires a specialized set of physical organs that serve no purpose for the individual's survival, only for the species. These parts must fit together with lock and key precision. If the hardware is not 100% complete and compatible on day one, the species ends in a single generation. Genetic software synchronization. Beyond the physical, the DNA must be perfectly synchronized. This mathematical precision must be identical in both parents. The behavioral blueprint. From the intricate dances of birds to the migration of salmon, these survival instructions must be present in the brain from the start for the hardware to ever be used. Chemical communication, pheromones, the third-party miracle, plant symbiosis. Many plants cannot reproduce without an entirely different species, such as a bee or a bat. This requires two completely different DNA manuals, plant and insect, to be pre-programmed to work together in a relationship known as obligate symbiosis. Genetic variability and stability. This balance of change and stability is a hallmark of sophisticated engineering, preventing genetic decay over time. Spiritual union and the human distinction. In humans, reproduction transcends biology. It is integrated with emotional bonding, love, and a spiritual one-flesh union. This layer of intimacy and commitment provides the stable, nurturing environment required to raise offspring with complex moral and spiritual consciousness. You cannot evolve reproduction slowly over millions of years. If the very first pair of any species couldn't successfully reproduce, there never would have been a second generation. The system had to be powered on and perfect from the beginning. So again, we see the evidence of the Creator. The design of pleasure, the clitoral evidence. The existence of a specialized anatomical structure dedicated to pleasure found across the mammal realm is a powerful testament to a Creator who designed biological systems for more than just clinical reproduction. In humans, this design reaches its peak where sexual intimacy is engineered as a vital component of bonding and mutual enjoyment, entirely independent of procreation. First, universal mammalian design. Clitoris is found in all female mammals. Single-purpose organ. In humans, the clitoris is widely recognized as the only organ whose primary anatomical function is the transmission of sexual pleasure, featuring a complex network of over 10,000 nerve endings. Recreational engineering. Intentional placement of the clitoris allows for stimulation and pleasure even when procreation is not the objective, proving that the master architect designed the software of the human heart and body for recreational intimacy. The precision interface, similar to the male penis in its origin and sensitivity, clitoris serves as a high-fidelity interface for emotional and physical bonding, creating a powerful chemical and psychological glue between partners. Beyond biological survival. While survival requires reproduction, a friend of the Creator is designed for more. The existence of pure physical joy is evidence of a compassionate designer who wanted his creation to experience delight, not just duty. Integrated bonding systems, intentional gift. The clitoris is the signature of delight in the human body. It serves as incontrovertible proof that we were not assembled by cold accidental forces, but were meticulously engineered by a sensitive Creator We intended for the human experience to include profound recreational joy as a foundational part of our relationship with one another and with Him. If a machine has a button that serves no purpose other than to make the user happy, you know the designer cared about the user. The clitoris is that button in the human frame, proving our architect is not just a mathematician, but a compassionate friend. The miracle of the womb, automated construction. The womb is the ultimate biological construction site where a single digital instruction set, DNA, transforms two cells into a complete breathing human being with trillions of specialized parts. The process is a masterpiece of automated assembly and high-level engineering. Single-cell blueprint. At the moment of conception, the single cell, called a zygote, contains the complete library of information needed to build a brain, a heart, and a skeleton. This all-in-one start proves that the plan exists before the building began. The placenta, the genius life support, a feat of precision biological plumbing, cellular differentiation. The sorting happens in a perfectly timed sequence directed by the DNA code. Folks, just see just how fantastically complex this all is. The miracle of the womb, automated construction, the amniotic shock absorber, the 300,000-mile nerve network, immune system cloaking, the birth transition. At the moment of birth, the baby's heart and lungs must undergo a mechanical flip. A hole in the heart, the foramen ovale, must snap shut instantly to reroute blood to the lungs. If this precise emergency switch doesn't work the first time, life cannot continue. The womb is a self-contained biofactory where the most complex machine in the universe, the human body, is assembled in just 280 days. This transition from code to consciousness represents the highest form of creative genius. And folks, if you look at this and you think about what I've just shared with you, how on earth can anybody support abortion? The miracles of animal breeding, we haven't got time to go into all of that, but just to make the point, the caterpillar, the egg, etc. The architecture of the heart, emotional evidence. So we see the love resulting in marriage, children, love for children, dating, etc. The existence of a deep subjective emotional world is perhaps the strongest evidence that we are more than biological supercomputers. While instinct can explain survival, it cannot explain the profound non-material spectrum of human feelings that connect us to one another and to a higher reality. Beyond biological survival, traits that serve no selfish survival purpose but reflect the heart of a creator. The complexity of hurt and grief, the capacity to mourn proves that we were designed for eternal connection, not just temporary biological existence. The moral alarm of anger. True anger is often a response to injustice. This righteous indignation is an internal moral alarm. It mirrors the Creator's own sense of justice, alerting us when the laws of love have been broken. Fear is a protective gift, the resonance of music and art, the need for intimacy. Humans possess a restless hunger for belonging and being known. This Yah-shaped vacuum evidences that we were created by a relational being who designed us for communion with others and with himself. The gift of forgiveness. Emotions are the language of the soul. They cannot be built from dry chemicals or random mutations. The fact that we can feel love, empathy, and awe proves we are the sensitive creation of a compassionate and emotional designer. Engineering, the proof of an intentional design. We see there some modern buildings in the heart of London in the UK, an oil refinery, a Ferrari sports car. While human achievements in architecture and machinery represent the absolute pinnacle of our intelligence and training, they serve as a profound measuring stick for the far greater complexity found in the natural world. If the rigid steel of a skyscraper, the intricate processing of a refinery, and the high-speed precision of a supercar all demand an author, then the self-repairing, self-replicating systems of life must logically point to an even higher level of intentional engineering. The blueprint precedes the brick, the hierarchy of complexity, the law of integrated systems. The intelligence requirement, these human achievements represent the pinnacle of education, training, and collective skill. To suggest that systems many times more complex, like DNA or the brain, arose by luck, contradicts every principle of engineering logic. conceptualization versus collision. No amount of time or random collisions will ever assemble a refinery or a supercar. Engineering proves that information and purpose must be injected into matter from the outside to create functional order. The master architect engineer. If a city's skyline demands an architect, then the interdependence of a global ecosystem demands a cosmic architect. The reality of creation is simply engineering on a scale that humbles human capability. The conclusion of design. We recognize design by its function, precision, and integration. Since these three hallmarks are found in every atom and cell, the only logical engineering conclusion is that a highly skilled, purposeful mind is behind the machine. As someone who designs and operates complex systems, I know that order never comes for free. Seeing as how we wouldn't attribute a car or a building to accidental forces, we have no logical basis to attribute the far superior engineering of life to anything other than a master engineer. Reality of creation, a unified masterpiece. As the ultimate synthesis of my research, bridging the gap between the microscopic code in ourselves and the cosmic order of the stars, I invite you to see that the world is not a collection of isolated accidents, but is a singular, unified masterpiece where every physical law and biological system has been precisely calibrated for a purposeful existence. Mathematical impossibility. Probability's law define impossibility as any chance less than 1 in 10 to the 50th power. The specific complexity of even a human finger or a 3 billion letter DNA code exceeds this limit by trillions, mathematically ruling out random accidents. Irreducible microengines, the bacterial flagellum. Encapsulated seed, genius, the seed. The global life support system. Earth is shielded by an invisible magnetic field generated by a rotating iron core. Without this precisely tuned deflector shield, our atmosphere would be stripped away and scarred by lethal solar radiation. Integrated ecosystems. No species exists in isolation. Information theory. Scientific law dictates that complex digital code, like the DNA operating manual, shared by all life, always requires an intelligent source. Information is a non-material entity that never arises from physical matter alone. The human distinction. Humans are the only beings capable of recognizing these laws. Our physical engineering, the precision hand, and spiritual architecture search for meaning. Identify us as the observers designed to understand the creation. Reality of creation, a unified masterpiece, from the subatomic precision of the atom to the vast stability of the solar system. The universe does not reflect chaos. It's a masterpiece of intentional high-level engineering where thousands of Goldilocks settings are dialed into the only position that allows life to thrive and speaks of the reality of the Creator. The impossible math, the probability of random occurrence, single functional protein, impossible. Human DNA wiring, statistical odds of random formation, impossible. Fine-tuning of gravity, random, extreme precision. Electron to proton mass ratio, extreme precision. Expansion rate of the universe, extreme precision. Cosmological constant, randomly, impossible. Low entropy, the Penrose number. So impossible, it's beyond language. Understanding the scale, the universal limit. Mathematicians such as Borel define any event with low odds than 1 in 10 to the 50. It's having a probability of 0 in our universe. Atom comparison. There are only about 10 to the power of 80 atoms in the entire observable universe. Most of these probabilities require a search space far larger than the universe itself. The verdict, when you see these numbers together, chance is no longer a viable scientific explanation. Math points exclusively to intentional design. To get the low entropy number by chance is like a blindfolded person picking one specific mock grain of sand out of a pile of sand that fills the entire observable universe, and doing it correctly every time for 1 trillion years. So what do you think? Did this all happen randomly? Or is it the work of a genius architect and engineer creator who conceptualized, designed, prototyped, and built this amazing array of all that we've examined? I find it inconceivable that a person could listen to what I've shared and decide that this creator does not exist. In the sections that follow, I will explore information that will help you to better understand the consequences and benefits of believing in Yah, the eternal creator, and the downside of unbelief. Further information in the slides that follow, the prayer on coming to belief and actions to take a bibliography, questions and answers to common questions about creation, what's been presented here. Discussion of why this world is such a mess, discussion of what happens if you do not believe, and questions and answers to a variety of other common questions. Detailed discussion of relationship with the Creator and measures you take to get close to the Creator. So a prayer on coming to belief. Same prayer. Father Yah, I now believe you exist. I commit my life to you. Please accept me. Amen. It's that simple. Don't hold back. Go for it. There's much more information to follow, particularly relating to the spiritual dimension and religion. Also a more detailed prayer. What to do on coming to belief. There's a period of 8 days from sincerely coming to belief for the first time, during which there is extreme grace to help you. See the article Critical Actions on First Belief for actions you should take immediately. Link in the comments. Download the ebook 7 Components in Drawing Close to Yah. Link also in the comments. Bibliography, The Science of Design, just a couple of a few of the most outstanding references. My proof, sourced from Nobel Prize winners and mathematicians, not just sharing an opinion, but rather the mathematical limits defined by some of the greatest minds in history. Sir Roger Penrose, mathematical physics, Nobel laureate, calculated the low entropy probability of the universe's beginning at 1 in 10 to the power of 10 to the 123rd power. Source, the Emperor's New Mind. Dr. Michael Baer, biochemistry. Claude Shannon, information theory. Sir Fred Hoyle, astronomy and mathematics. Dr. Masarutu Emoto, water research. Showed you some of his pictures earlier. Dr. Werner Gift, information science. Emile Borel, mathematics and probability. So some answers to some common questions. Time factor. If you give a random process billions of years, wouldn't even the most impossible events eventually happen? Answer. Time is actually the enemy of design, not the hero. The second law of thermodynamics, entropy, states that left to themselves, systems move from order to disorder. Waiting longer only increases the noise and decay. Furthermore, the 13.8 billion year age of the universe is far too short to satisfy the impossible math we documented. We'd need trillions of times more time than currently exists. Question, the God of the gaps. Aren't you just using a creator to fill in things that science hasn't explained yet? Answer, no. We're not arguing from what we don't know, but from what we do know about information theory and engineering. We know that digital code, DNA, always comes from the mind. We know that rotary motors, flagellum, always come from an engineer. Following the evidence to an intelligent source is a logical conclusion based on consistent scientific observation, not a gap in knowledge. Perfection versus bad design. Question, if there's a creator, why are there bad designs like the human appendix or genetic diseases? Answer, masterpiece can be damaged or decay over time without erasing the evidence of its original design. The crashed Ferrari is still clearly a piece of high-level engineering, even if it no longer functions perfectly. Furthermore, many useless organs like the appendix have recently been discovered to have vital roles, like storing healthy gut bacteria, proving our understanding is often the only thing that is imperfect. The origin of the creator. Question, if everything complex needs a designer, then who designed the creator? Answer, this is a category error. The laws of the universe, time, space, and matter require a beginning. However, the source of those laws must by definition exist outside of them. Mathematics and logic point to a first cause that is uncaused and eternal. You cannot have an infinite chain of designers. Eventually you reach the foundation of all information. Successive steps versus irreducible complexity. Question, couldn't complex organs like the eye have formed one tiny beneficial step at a time? Answer, the math says no. The eye, to provide any survival benefit, you need the lens, the retina, and the optic nerve to work as a synchronized unit. A lens without a retina is useless. A retina without a brain link is a waste of energy. Like the bacterial flagellum, these are irreducibly complex systems that must be 100% complete in order to power on. Why can't we see the Creator? Question, why can't we see the Creator? If the evidence is so clear, why isn't the Creator visible or obvious to everyone? Answer, the Creator is visible in the same way a software programmer is visible in the code. You don't need to see the architect to know the building was designed. You simply look at the blueprints and the structure. The reality of creation is written in the physical constants of the stars and the digital language of ourselves. The evidence is not hidden. It's there in the very fabric of our existence. Everything presented so far shows the Creator. Part 2, religious and spiritual context. Why we exist, why we believe. Why believe, rewards in the afterlife, why the world is such a mess, and diverse other topics. The pinnacle and purpose of creation, personal relationship. Having examined the hardware and software of the universe, this final step focuses on the user. The evidence proves conclusively that humanity was not just designed to exist, but to understand and interact with the source of that design. We have spent our time looking at the fingerprints of a master engineer, but a blueprint doesn't build a house just to leave it empty. It builds it for a resident. You are intended to be that resident, and the architect is waiting for the conversation to begin. The pinnacle and purpose of creation, personal relationship. The intentional pinnacle, the complexity, precision, and beauty found in the world proves that human beings are the central focus and beneficiary of the design of the universe. The question of existence, the deliberate nature of reality poses a fundamental question. Why are we here? The concept of shared purpose. The truth is that existence is rooted in a desire on the part of the Creator for intelligent connection, conversation, and shared creative endeavors between humanity and Creator, whose true name is Yah, the eternally self-existing. The pinnacle and purpose of creation, personal relationship. The personal connection. I state with confidence that humans are meant to involve Yah in every facet of their lives, moving beyond survival toward a personal partnership. The human experience, seeking this connection, is the essence of one's purpose on earth. Further exploration, there are many resources available for those looking to explore the specific teaching regarding Father Yah and how to develop a close relationship with the Creator. Visit www.etimin.org. This topic connects the scientific evidence of design to the ultimate question of human purpose. It represents the conclusion that the staggering complexity of our world is intended to facilitate a personal relationship between the human participant and the master engineer. What happens if you believe the eternal outcome? Belief in the master architect, whose true name is Yah, serves as the foundational requirement for entering the kingdom of heaven. Earthly actions determine an individual's eternal rank, authority, and intimacy with the Creator. Based on 2026 demographics, the hierarchy of people on earth who would enter heaven if they died today ranges from a single friend, over 20 overcomers, 2,500 good and faithful servants, 100,000 wise stewards, and 250,000 adulterous wives, and 1 million foolish virgins on earth today. A strictly tiered structure of rewards and consequences. Folks, the number of people who truly believe is minute, and it's your opportunity today to become one of those people. And it's my ambition to increase those numbers dramatically. The qualification for heaven. The most immediate result of belief is qualifying to enter the kingdom of heaven after death, as belief is the foundational requirement for residency. If you have prayed that short prayer that I've given you several times now, a switch has gone on in your spirit, and you're now destined for heaven. The question is, what will you do now that you've made that choice? The reward of esteem. Beyond simple entry, a believer has the opportunity to qualify for a position of great authority through a deep personal relationship and service, earning roles of leadership, escaping the lake of fire. At the end of the 7,000-year contest between the Creator and Satan, Those who do not believe face a potential end in the lake of fire, ceasing to exist after living as ancestors, spirits, in other words, demons, till then. Avoiding the outer darkness. Believers who ignore the Creator during their life will experience the outer darkness in heaven, a place of cold, dark isolation reflecting their earthly lack of interest. The overcomers and friends today. This elite group represents those who have achieved victory over sin and worldliness, standing at the absolute pinnacle of the kingdom's demographics and sharing in direct rule. The hierarchy of service. The kingdom is strictly tiered based on faithfulness, featuring for 2026, if all were to die today, the friend 1, overcomers 2, good and faithful servants 2,500, and wise stewards 100,000, representing the high levels of authority. The foolish virgins and adulterous wives. The lower ranks of the kingdom consist of believers who lack discipline or strayed. Specifically, the adulterous wives, 250,000, and the foolish virgins, 1 million. But what I ask you to see here is, compared to what the world is saying in terms of billions of believers, the reality is harshly very different. So what happens if you believe? Your life on earth is the qualifying round for your rank in the life to come. Choosing to believe is only the first step. The intensity of your relationship with Father Yah determines whether you spend eternity in the cold of the outer darkness or as an overcomer or friend seated upon a high throne in a state of eternal glory and authority. The mountain of relationship is sent to friendship. The mountain of relationship is the central metaphor for the believer's journey, representing a steep and arduous climb through progressive levels of truth. It is a journey and relationship. It is a journey where spiritual altitude is directly proportional to spiritual authority, but where the danger of falling, primarily through pride or complacency, remains a constant reality at every ledge. Ledges of truth. The climb consists of specific spiritual plateaus, starting from the foundation of salvation, ascending through set apartness, sanctification, prayer, emunah, faith, and thanksgiving towards the peak of the Father's love. The mechanics of altitude. As you climb higher, your spiritual weapons increase. Precarious footing. As you saw from the image, it's easy to fall at any level. The anchor of commandments. Many fall because they fail to anchor themselves. One must drive the sword of the commandments into the ledge and tie themselves to it, using the laws of Yah as a literal safety line against the winds of deception. This speaks to deeply knowing the 10 Commandments and honoring them strictly. The mantle of humility. The shortcut doors of sacrifice. The eternal rank lock-in. Position a believer holds on the mountain at the moment of their death becomes their permanent rank for eternity. There is no further climbing after this life. The altitude reached now defines your eternal proximity to the Creator. Climbing the mountain is not a suggestion, it is the reason for your life. While the ascent is rugged and the risk of falling from any level is real, those who endure the climb and don the mantle of humility qualify to become friends of Yah, seated on high thrones in a state of eternal authority and intimacy. The glories of heaven, the realm of high esteem. Glories of heaven represent the ultimate engineering achievement of the Creator, a realm where physical beauty, spiritual authority, and total intimacy with Father Yah converge into an eternal state of high esteem. It is a world of vibrant light and profound purpose that transcends every earthly limitation. The overcomers and friends get to sit on thrones that are part of the throne of the Creator, alongside Yahushua, incorrectly Jesus. The Hall of High Thrones. Those who achieve victory on earth are seated on majestic thrones. The resurrected body of light, residents of heaven, possess bodies that are imperishable, radiating a brilliant golden light. These glorified forms are free from pain, decay, and fatigue, functioning with perfect efficiency. The atmosphere of life, vibrant living colors. The tree and river of life at the heart of the kingdom is the river of life flowing from the throne and the tree of life. These are the sources of eternal vitality, providing constant spiritual and physical renewal to all residents. Intimate conversation. The greatest glory is the ability to converse directly with Father Yah as a friend and with Yahushua. This is a relationship of deep mutual respect, shared creativity, and total transparency, fulfilling the core reason for our purpose. for our creation, a world of purpose. Heaven is not a place of idle rest, but of high-level engagement. The glories of heaven, the realms of high esteem. You can get to sit on a throne much more glorious than the picture then. Remember that climbing the mountain is not a suggestion, it's the reason for your existence. You can qualify to become a friend of yours seated on a high throne in a state of internal authority and intimacy. What happens if you do not believe the final judgment? Choosing to live as an unbeliever is a high-stakes gamble with one's eternal existence. Under the rules of the contest, the fate of those who reject the Creator is tied directly to the final outcome of a 7,000-year struggle between Yah and Satan, leading either to total annihilation or an eternity of chaos on a dead planet. The ancestor spirit transition. Upon death, an unbeliever does not enter heaven. Instead, they become an ancestor spirit, commonly known as a demon. Unlike previous understandings, these spirits are not bound to their graves and are able to move around the earth under their own power. And just by the way, if you die as an unbeliever, you're not going to hell. Not right away, anyway. A default servant of Satan. By refusing to acknowledge the Creator, an individual becomes a servant of the Satanic realm by default. This makes them eligible for recruitment into the demonic army to further the contest against those who seek Yah. Scenario A, if Satan loses. If the 7,000-year contest in around 3003 ends with Satan's defeat, all unbelievers and demons will be cast into the lake of fire and brimstone. This is the incinerator of heaven, where in a moment of torment and terror they will be utterly destroyed, ceasing to exist forever. Scenario B, if Satan wins. If Satan achieves his goal of having no committed believers on earth, he wins dominion. However, Yah will then withdraw his spirit entirely from the planet, and since his spirit is what sustains all life, every biological thing on earth will die. The sea of corpses. In the event of a satanic victory, the earth becomes a planetary graveyard. Unbelievers will spend eternity as demons wandering through a sea of billions of corpses with no comfort. Eternity of demonic warfare. Without the Creator's restraint, the senior demonic masterminds will compete fiercely for power. Unbelievers in the form of demons will be caught in a cycle of eternal war and torment, fighting with other spirits because they can no longer kill what is already dead. The ultimate rejection. Creator's logic is simple. He will not force anyone to spend eternity with him if they lived their life believing he did not exist. Unbelief is a choice to be permanently separated from the source of life, love, and peace. Yah has said, why would I want someone to spend eternity with me when they do not believe I exist? What happens if you do not believe? There is no neutral ground in death for the unbeliever. Whether through total destruction in the lake of fire or being abandoned on a dead planet filled with corpses and warring demons, the outcome of unbelief is a catastrophic loss of the glorious future which human beings were originally engineered for. The history of deception, how the world was lost. History is not a random sequence of events, it's a record of a legal battle. Every war, every famine, and every religious era has been calculated by moved by Satan and his demonic masterminds to keep you from realizing who you were truly designed to be. The current state of the world is the result of a 6,000-year strategic takeover by the forces of darkness, transforming a perfect creation into a battlefield of deception. Understanding how we arrived at this point requires looking past conventional history to the contest, a legal and spiritual war where humanity's choices have allowed Satan to seize nearly total control of the earth. And there we see just some of the consequences of Satan controlling a lot of what happens on the earth. The original rebellion, current chaos, began when the high messenger or angel Hillel, who became Satan, rebelled against Yah, leading to a legal contest to see who humanity would choose to follow. The Adamic handover through the fall in Eden, the authority originally given to mankind was legally handed over to Satan, granting him the title of God of this world and the right to influence human affairs to turn from him. Flood reconstruction. Following the global hydraulic event roughly 4,500 years ago, The demonic realm pivoted to re-establishing satanic and demonic systems of false worship and religious idols to ensure humanity remained disconnected from religious infiltration. Satan's most effective tool has been the creation of religions that use holy books like the Bible and the Quran and the Torah as idols, steering well-meaning people away from a direct personal relationship with the Creator. The war on the name. A strategic demonic global effort was launched to erase the true name, Yah, from human language, replacing it with generic titles like God or Lord to prevent the power of true invocation. The strategy of sin. By promoting sin and breaking the Ten Commandments, the demonic realm gains legal rights to oppress individuals and nations, creating the suffering and poverty seen across the globe today. The current near victory. In 2026, we see a world where Satan has nearly won the contest, with only a tiny remnant of believers remaining who understand the true names and are at some level attempting to climb the mountain. Our world today is not a natural mess, it's a demonically engineered trap designed to ensure humanity fails the contest. By recognizing that we're living in a captured world governed by the Prince of Darkness, we can finally understand why seeking a personal relationship with Father Yah is the only way to escape the coming judgment and reclaim our original purpose. The pre-flood world, the original masterpiece. It may not have looked exactly like that, but that gives you some level of indication. The pre-flood world was a technologically advanced, hyper-productive global paradise that operated under an entirely different set of physical and atmospheric laws. Understanding this mother civilization is the key to recognizing why modern architecture finds instant mature civilizations and massive fossil remains that cannot be explained by slow evolutionary development. The vapor canopy wasn't just a sky feature, it was the engine for the entire paradise system. It provided the pressure necessary for giant dinosaurs to breathe through small lungs and the radiation protection needed for a 900-year human life. Protective vapor canopy. The Earth was surrounded by a massive water vapor canopy that acted as a global terrarium dome. This filtered out harmful cosmic radiation and maintained a uniform subtropical climate from pole to pole, eliminating storms, ice caps, and deserts. Hyperbaric atmosphere. The era of giants, gigantism. Under high pressure and radiation protection, life flourished to massive proportions. Centuries-long lifespans. The lack of ultraviolet decay and the perfect environmental conditions allowed humans to live for nearly 1,000 years. This longevity enabled a single individual to accumulate vast amounts of knowledge and skill, leading to a rapid explosion in technology. Advanced global technology. Far from being Stone Age, this civilization mastered electricity, high-speed flight, and complex metallurgy. Unified land and language. Originally, the Earth consisted of one massive continental landmass and one global language, to which today we know as Hebrew. The land was watered by a mist. The global hydraulic event. The world was destroyed not by a slow risk of rise of water, but by a sudden cosmic and tectonic disaster. Canopy collapsed, dumping water coupled to the water from the ice comet that triggered the event. The pre-flood world was a high-performance environment, a paradise. Evidence of existence is written in the giant fossils and the numerous mixed land and sea corpses that speak of a sudden, total, violent end to a superior human era. The pre-flood world was not just a natural paradise, but a high-tech superworld where advanced architecture and machinery were integrated into a hyper-productive environment. The mother civilization was a fusion of monumental engineering and pristine nature under the protective vapor academy. The global transformation, the global engineering overhaul. The physical landscape of our planet is not a record of slow, uniform change, but a high-energy geological crime scene. Approximately 4,500 years, a massive ice comet from the Kuiper Belt struck the Earth, providing the kinetic energy to shatter the tectonic eggshell and the liquid volume to submerge the globe. This single event transformed a uniform paradise into a scarred, extreme world, proving that Creator's absolute authority over the physical laws of the universe, the Kuiper Belt trigger. The cataclysm was initiated by a massive ice comet launched from the Kuiper Belt by the Almighty. Upon impact, it provided a dual-action catastrophe, torrential rain and flooding from the melting ice, and a physical shove that knocked the Earth off its vertical axis and out of its circular orbit around the Sun. The axis tilt in seasons. The comet's impact created the 23.5-degree tilt of the Earth. This tilt instantly destroyed the global greenhouse effect, creating the North and South poles and the extreme temperature zones that necessitate the strenuous human existence we know today. Rapid global sedimentation. High-velocity floodwaters carried massive loads of sand and silt, laying down successive layers of strata in a very short period of time. This explains why we find polystrate fossils like tree trunks passing through multiple layers that are supposedly millions of years apart. Doesn't make sense what is generally believed, folks. It really doesn't make sense. This is the true answer. The tectonic ripping, the force of the impact shattered the original single continent. This created the mid-Atlantic ridge, a 10,000-mile jagged seam where the crust was ripped apart, the Mariana Trench, and many other features. Continents did not drift. They slid thousands of miles into their current positions in a very short period of time as the Earth expanded due to overheating core. Uplift of the high peaks. As the continents collided and the crust readjusted, mountain ranges like the Himalayas and Andes were pushed up while the sediment was still soft and pliable. That's why marine fossils are found at the summit of Mount Everest, 29,000 feet above sea level. Grand Canyon, the drainage ditch, is an example. The Grand Canyon was not carved by the tiny Colorado River. It was gouged out in days or weeks when water drained off the continents as the Earth expanded. An event similar to the 1980 Mount St. Helens Little Grand Canyon formation. Underfoot rivers and erratics. Modern geography is filled with underfoot streams far too small to have carved the massive valleys they occupy. Alongside erratic boulders moved thousands of miles, these served as the physical fingerprints of a high-volume global hydraulic event. The Earth's topography is the wreckage of a sudden, total judgment. From the jagged scar of the Mid-Atlantic Ridge to the instant carving of the Grand Canyon, the evidence points to a high-speed planetary remodeling. As an engineer looking at these features reveals a world that was physically, shambolically reformed to be more difficult, reflecting the legal consequences of the contest between Yah and Satan. And there's a comparative table between some of the characteristics of the Earth today and the conventional wisdom of slow evolution versus the rapid flood design model. And frankly, folks, if you study this out, you will see that what I'm saying has to be the truth. Post-flood reconstruction, inherited genius. Immediate sophisticated emergence of post-flood civilizations is not a mystery of evolution, but the result of 8 survivors, Noah and his family, applying the high-tech blueprints of a lost superworld to a scarred planet. These survivors carried with them 1,000 years of pre-flood scientific and engineering mastery, allowing for a sudden maturity of architecture, mathematics, and metallurgy that modern man is only now beginning to rediscover. The ship of Noah, the Ark. Far from a primitive barge, the Ark was a masterpiece of naval engineering with a length-to-width ratio of 6:1, the same used in modern supertankers to house and sustain life during a year of global upheaval. The family of 8, these survivors, Noah and his 3 sons and their wives, were not Stone Age people. They were highly educated members of a pre-flood society that had mastered flight, electricity, and global surveying, enabling them to act as the technical directors for the new civilization. Instant civilization, Egypt, Sumer, etc. Archaeology shows that the great civilizations appeared suddenly at their peak of maturity. There are no primitive pyramids. The earliest structures are the most complex and precise, proving that the knowledge was inherited from a superior source rather than developed locally. The Great Pyramid, a geodetic monument. The Great Pyramid was not merely a tomb, but a high-level scientific instrument. It's aligned to true north with the precision of 3/60ths of a degree and functions as a mathematical scale model of the Earth's northern hemisphere, encoding the value of pi in the planet's circumference. Technical continuity. Post-flood records and artifacts evidence the early use of electricity. Complex astronomical computers like the Antikythera mechanism and even high-speed flight, the Saqqara bird, are all remnants of the lost technology brought across the flood. The global survey, monolithic mastery, the ability to move and fit 1,000-ton blocks like those of Baalbek, demonstrates a mechanical ability that baffles modern engineers. This mastery evidences that survivors utilized advanced technology known to the mother civilization. The history of mankind is not a slow climb from the cave, but a struggle to reclaim the lost knowledge of the pre-flood world. The pyramids and many other structures are the physical fingerprints of a family of 8 who possess the engineering secrets of a fallen paradise, proving that our origins are rooted in a state of high-level intelligence and design. As an engineer, when I look at the Great Pyramid, I don't see a tomb. I see a 1 in 43,200 scale model of the Earth. It is a mathematical signal from the past, proving that the first generations after the flood were smarter, stronger, and more technologically advanced than we are today. The 7 components of drawing close to Yah. 7 components of drawing close to Yah represent a rigorous multidimensional discipline designed to cleanse the believer and accelerate their ascent to the mountain of relationship. Based on the foundational teachings of End Time Mission Ministries, these components are not merely religious rituals, but are essential engineering steps required to remove spiritual blockages and align a human being with the frequency of the Creator. 1. Process early errors. 7-day fast, covenant meal, communion, cleansing with oil and water. Constant prayer. Growing close requires a constant conversation throughout the day. This includes specific prayers for wisdom, the removal of deception that focuses on relationship with Yah, moving the believer into a state of permanent intimacy. This is personal and private, not through a human intermediary. You do not have to go to your local place of assembly to do this. In fact, that's counterproductive. Constant worship. Growing close requires high energy worship that focuses on the positive attributes of Yah, moving the believer into a state of permanent intimacy and anointing. There are recommended songs on the website. Study and research. The true seeker must be a researcher of the truth. This involves going beyond holy books that have become idols like the Bible and instead seeking direct truth through relationship with Yah, supported by the ETI website, resources, history, and the engineering of creation to understand the master architect. These 7 components are the maintenance manual for the human spirit. By diligently applying these steps, the seeker moves from being a foolish virgin at the base of the mountain to becoming a friend at the summit. They provide the practical, incontrovertible method for anyone to test and prove the reality of the Creator through their own direct supernatural experience. You don't need a priest or a church or a mosque and an imam or a synagogue and a rabbi or a temple and a priest to find Yah. You need the discipline of these 7 components. They are the tools that allow you to strip away deception and carnality and stand face to face with your Creator. The link to access the full document is in the comments. It's about 72 pages. It's written under a significant anointing with significant inspiration, and I recommend that you read it and apply it as soon as possible. The miraculous planning of the death of Yahushua, Jesus. What you see there is Yeshua on the stake, not a cross, the Ark of the Covenant, and how the blood of Yeshua fell onto the mercy seat of the Ark of the Covenant, introducing a new covenant, a new high priest, and a new offering for forgiveness of sin. The death of Yahushua was a surgical, legal, and mechanical masterpiece of planning, specifically engineered to provide a permanent solution for human sin. It was not a tragic accident, but a highly coordinated event that required Yeshua to live a sinless life as a 100% human being, so that his death could serve as a clean sacrifice. By aligning timing, the location, and the physical shedding of blood with the hidden Ark of the Covenant, the Creator and Yeshua executed a strategic maneuver to legally reclaim humanity from the power of Satan. The 100% human requirement. Yahushua had to be entirely human, born of a woman with supernatural conception, to live a sinless life and qualify as a legal substitute for human death. Passover alignment, precision of Golgotha. He was executed at the exact spot where the Ark of the Covenant was hidden in a cave, directly beneath the site of the execution stake by Jeremiah at the time of the Babylonian invasion of Jerusalem. The earthquake and the crack. The moment of his death, a targeted earthquake split the rock, creating a vertical conduit for the blood of Yeshua from the stake down to the mercy seat. Direct blood application. His blood flowed down the stake through the earthquake crack and dripped directly onto the mercy seat of the ark, fulfilling the ultimate legal sacrifice for atonement from sin, the ordination of a new high priest, and the consummation of a new covenant. Victory over the grave. Because he was sinless, death had no legal hold on him, allowing Yeshua to be resurrected, sit down at the right hand of Father as the first of many overcomers and friends. Delegated power to mankind. Through his sinless life, Yeshua reclaimed the authority Adam lost and delegated back to those who believe, providing the legal authority to cast out demons and take authority over the satanic and demonic realm in the name of Yahushua. The life and execution of Yahushua was a calculated mechanical event that utilized obedience, physical geography, and spiritual law to bridge the gap between man and the Creator. It proved that the incontrovertible evidence of Yah's genius extends into the legal realm, providing a way for anyone to be cleansed and restored to their original purpose as a friend of the Almighty. This was not a religious story, it was a structural intervention. The earthquake, the crack in the rock, and the blood on the mercy seat were the necessary engineering steps to reset the legal status of the human race. Believers in hell for unrepented sin. So contrary to common teaching, it's not the unbelievers who go to hell. It's the believers who have unrepented sin who go to hell. So believers who die with unconfessed, unrepented sin must undergo a period of intense purification in hell, the correction center, to pay for their transgressions. Only then do they enter heaven. Sinners breaking one of the 10 commandments and certain ancillary laws. This process is a sober legal reality where the duration and intensity of suffering are tailored to the severity of the believer's earthly unrepented sin. This is in recognition of the intense torment that Yeshua underwent to provide a way for repentance and forgiveness. First, legal debt of sin. Unrepented sins create a debt that must be settled in hell, if not cleared on earth through the blood of Yeshua. Purpose of purification. Hell functions as a correction center to burn away sin and prepare the spirit for the holiness of heaven. Duration of punishment. The time spent in hell is directly proportional to the number and severity of unconfessed sins. Intensity of torment. Torment is tailored to the specific nature of the sin, ensuring the punishment fits the crime. Terrifying reality. Believers in hell experience severe terror, heat, and emotional agony due to their disobedience. The role of deception. Many believers enter hell due to false beliefs and failing to repent of their sin. Organized religion is a big driver of this. Final entry to heaven. Upon fully paying the price through suffering, the believer is released from hell to enter the kingdom. In summary, unconfessed sins lead believers through the agony of hell for purification, emphasizing the necessity of constant self-examination and repentance to avoid this temporal torment. So people who believe and then ignore Yah for the rest of their lives, when they die, are sent to the outer darkness, the trash heap of heaven, bitterly cold and black with weeping and wailing and gnashing of teeth. There are tens of millions of people in the current age that are headed there. So, for example, doing a altar call to thousands of people and then not helping them to grow, they're going to end up here and you're not going to do so well on the day of judgment. The lake of fire and brimstone for believers who are rejected after willful sin. They're destroyed in the incinerator after time in hell to pay the price for unrepentant sin. So if you're a believer and you get shown that you're sinning and you just say, oh, yes, I'm sorry, and you do it again and again and again, eventually Father's going to say, you know what, you don't really trust me. You don't really believe in me. I'm going to throw you out. And you get thrown in the incinerator and you die in a moment of torment and terror. Critical actions on first belief. 7 foundational steps to transition from unbelief to a committed relationship with the Creator. Legally severing ties with the Satanic realm and establishing a new spiritual foundation. These actions include a decision to believe, a prayer of commitment, a 7-day fast, full water immersion, mounting with oil and grape juice representing the blood of the covenant, cutting unholy ties, and repeatedly taking the covenant meal, amongst other things. The decision to believe, a firm, heartfelt decision that the Creator exists. And if you've prayed that short prayer that I've given you a couple of times, that has already happened. Simple prayer of commitment, praying to accept Yah and ask for forgiveness. We've done that. There's a more detailed prayer that I'll give you in a minute. 7-day fast. I strongly recommend that as soon as you come to belief, you partake in a 7-day water-only fast. You can take the bread and wine of the covenant morning and evening as well. Total immersion in a mikvah body of clean water, and I recommend threefold immersion. Anointing with red grape juice to represent the blood of the covenant for deep spiritual cleansing, and then anointing with oil to represent the spirit of Yah and being filled with the Spirit. Cutting of unholy ties, renouncing vows and covenants that you've made that are not right. And the first covenant meal, seal of the new relationship, utilizing the blood of Yahushua. These steps constitute a spiritual reboot necessary to move from the kingdom of darkness into the kingdom of Yah. By completing these actions, a new believer secures their spiritual standing and begins their journey of relationship with the Creator. Link to the full article is in the comments. Why so many believers have problems, judgment in this life. Judgment is not primarily a distant end-of-life event, but an active, ongoing reality experienced in this present life by believers. Most people misunderstand judgment, assuming it occurs only after death, whereas in truth, consequences unfold continuously in response to beliefs, actions, in alignment or misalignment with the Creator. Life is a testing ground in which outcomes, blessing or hardship, reflect spiritual condition and choices. Personal responsibility, awareness, and the urgency of right relationship with the Creator now are critical rather than postponing concern to a future end-of-life judgment. Judgment is active in this life. Judgment is immediate and ongoing rather than deferred. Life circumstances themselves, health, provision, accidents are evidence of alignment or misalignment with the Creator and presence or absence of sin. Most people misunderstand judgment. The prevailing belief is that judgment only occurs after death is a misunderstanding that leads people to ignore present accountability and delay necessary change and fail to learn from things that go wrong in their lives. Consequences reflect spiritual state. Personal responsibility is central. The Creator is actively engaged. Judgment is not random. It is the active involvement of the Creator in guiding, correcting, and responding to human behavior in real time. Correction is an opportunity to learn and course correct. Ignoring judgment leads to escalation. If you get judged and you keep doing it, you will get judged more harshly, and if you carry on in time, you'll be rejected. Right relationship is the objective. The ultimate purpose of judgment is relational, not merely legal. It's intended to draw individuals into a correct and close relationship with the Creator in this life, free of sin, remembering that sin separates one from the Creator. The mechanism. The Satanic messenger or angel observes sin and escalates it up the Satanic hierarchy. Senior Satanic messenger, as accuser, prosecutor, brings the case before the judgment seat, the throne where Yah is judge, with Yeshua as advocate pleading for mercy. Judgment is given, and the Satanic and demonic realm execute the prescribed judgment. In essence, judgment is a present tense reality rather than a distant future event. Life itself becomes the arena in which judgment unfolds, with outcomes reflecting alignment or misalignment relative to the Creator. Misunderstanding this principle leads to complacency, while recognizing it introduces urgency and responsibility. Difficulties are positioned not simply as punishment, but as opportunities for correction and growth. The central thrust is clear. Individuals must pay attention to the evidence in their lives, take responsibility, and actively pursue right relationship now, because judgment is already in operation. You can pray. Father, I come to you in the name of Yahushua. I recognize that I've sinned. List your sins. And in the name of Yahushua, I ask you to forgive me. And then to be filled with the Spirit of Yah. Father, I ask you to fill me with your Spirit and help me to draw as close to you as possible. So what is sin? What do you need to do to avoid judgment? Sin is defined as the legal violation of any of the 10 commandments, which serve as the foundational standard for judgment and spiritual protection. Violating these commandments acts as a foothold for spiritual oppression, while the mark of the beast represents habitual disobedience to one or more of these laws and is not a physical microchip. Definition of sin. Sin is defined as non-compliance with any of the 10 commandments, providing legal ground for demonic oppression and spiritual disconnection and judgment. Mark of the beast. This is identified as a spiritual mark signifying disobedience to the commandments rather than a physical device, vaccine, or microchip. The first commandment, no other mighty ones. This prohibits placing anything or anyone, including Yahushua, before Yah or equal to Yah. Prohibition of idols. This forbids treating physical objects or individuals as mighty ones and worshipping them. Includes the Bible, the Torah, and the Quran. The true Saturday Sabbath. Adherence to the true Saturday Sabbath is really important. The one big gift you can give Yah. Willful sin and consequences. Continuing to break commandments after knowing of them and understanding them constitutes willful sin, removing the prediction of sacrifice, and can eventually lead to rejection and destruction in the lake of fire, as we saw a minute ago. Judgment and compliance. Compliance with these laws determines spiritual rank, while teaching disobedience results in the lowest status in heaven. The 10 Commandments function as the absolute terms and conditions for human existence, serving as the benchmark for judgment in the court of heaven. Violating them is viewed as a functional failure of the spirit, leading to catastrophic consequences similar to ignoring physical laws. For more information, visit www.etimin.org. Let's look at the 10 Commandments as the basis of judgment. The 10 Commandments represent the immutable high-level operating instruction for the human spirit. These are not mere suggestions, but the foundational laws of the universe. Violating them creates a legal breach in your spiritual protection, allowing the forces of darkness to bring sickness, poverty, failure, and judgment into your life. They're the basis of judgment for believers, and breaking them leads to judgment in this life, as well as time in hell and after death for unrepented sin. The 10 Commandments is the basis of judgment. Number 1, no other gods. You shall have no other mighty ones before or equal to Yah. This requires a total removal of all other spiritual allegiances, including Yahushua, Muhammad, Moses, etc. No idols. You shall not make or worship any carved image or likeness of anything in heaven or earth. This includes the modern idolatry of the Bible, the cross, or Jesus' effigies. Also the worship of money, fame, or religious figures. It also includes the Quran and Muhammad. Do not take, and the Torah, by the way. Do not take the name of Yah in vain. You shall not bring the name of Yah, the eternally self-existing, to naught. This includes replacing his true name, names like the Lord or God, or using the pagan name Jesus for Yahushua. Keep the Saturday Sabbath. Observe the true Sabbath of Yah. This is the sign of your covenant and your day of rest and focus. One of the biggest gifts you can give to Yah, and obedience will be rewarded. Honor your father and your mother. Respect and care for your parents, so that your days may be long upon the earth. This is the foundational law for a stable, integrated society and family structure. Do not murder. You shall not take a human life unlawfully. This includes the modern sacrifice of abortion and the slow murder of hatred or unforgiveness towards another person in your heart. Do not commit adultery. A man shall not initiate sexual relations with any woman who is joined to another man. This includes active engagement with pornography, which is mental adultery. Do not steal. You shall not take what does not belong to you. This includes physical theft, legal theft through dishonest business practices, and stealing the time or credit that belongs to another. Also taking tithes and offerings while teaching lies. Do not bear false witness, no lying. You shall not lie or testify falsely against anyone. Truth is a mechanical requirement of the kingdom of Yah. Lies create data corruption in your spiritual standing. Do not covet. You shall not lust after your neighbor's house, spouse, or possessions. Covetousness is the root of sin that leads to the violation of all other commandments through selfish desire. These 10 laws are the security firewall to your soul. In the court of heaven, you are judged based on your compliance with these rules. Living in accordance with them is the only way to live without sin, ensuring your prayers are heard and your life is protected from the legal claims of the Satanic realm. 10 commandments were written in stone by Father Yah at Mount Sinai. They will never change. The appendix, some important facts correcting religious errors. This appendix serves as a critical technical correction to 6,000 years of satanic and demonic religious deception. In any engineering project, using the wrong terminology or faulty data leads to system failure. Likewise, these facts are essential to align your spiritual software with the actual reality of the master architect for the The true name. The Creator's name is Yah, the eternally self-existing, not God, or the Lord, or Hashem, or Allah. These common titles are generic and pagan and were strategically introduced by the demonic realm to raise the power of his true name. Yeshua is 100% human. The man commonly called Jesus is actually correctly called Yahushua, and he is 100% human. He is not God and never claimed to be. His victory over sin was only legal because he overcame sin as a man. The Bible is not the word of God. The Bible is a collection of useful human writings that contain errors and has become a modern-day idol. It is a useful historical reference. The word of Yah is his direct living voice to you today. The era of Jesus, the name Jesus, is a mistranslation that is phonetically linked to Iesus, meaning Hail Zeus, a demonic deity. Continued use of this name after learning the truth constitutes willful sin and provides a legal opening for demonic oppression. The torture stake. Yeshua was executed on a single upright stake, not a cross. The cross is an ancient Babylonian pagan symbol of the sun god and has no place in the true worship of Yah. No grace for willful sin. The religious idea that you can continue to sin because of grace is a lie. After learning the truth, continued willful sin leads to the unpardonable sin, where forgiveness is no longer available. The false Sabbath. The true Sabbath is Saturday, not Sunday. Sunday worship is a Babylonian day of the sun tradition that honors the adversary rather than the creator. And this is from sunrise Saturday to sunrise Sunday. State of the dead. When a person dies, they do not go to purgatory or sleep. They either enter heaven as a believer or remain on earth as an ancestor spirit demon if they just do not believe. Virgin birth myth. Yeshua was the biological son of Miriam, Mary. He was conceived without sin through a creative miracle by Yah. He had to be fully human to satisfy the legal requirements of the contest. Yah did not have sex with Mary. These facts represent a major departure from tradition or modern religion. To climb the mountain, a seeker must be willing to discard comfortable lies in favor of clinical, historical, and spiritual truth. There are many more truths on the ETI-Man website. Aligning with these facts is the only way to ensure your prayers reach the throne of Yah without being intercepted by the forces of darkness. If you use the wrong login and password, you cannot access the system. These 9 corrections are the correct login for the kingdom of Yah. Without them, you're praying to a satanic counterfeit. The final appeal. The choice is yours. We spent this time looking at the fingerprints of a master architect. We've seen the mathematical scaffolding of the stars, the digital code in our cells, and the mechanical genius of our own bodies. As an engineer, I can tell you with total certainty this is not the work of chance. This is high-level intentional engineering on a scale that humbles human intelligence. But the most important fact is not just that Yah exists. The most important fact is that Yah is lonely. He didn't build this massive universe just to watch it run. He built it to find friends. He is looking for highly intelligent partners who will converse with him, create with him, and involve him in every facet of their lives. He's waiting for you, irrespective of your religion, your social context, your level of education, your level of wealth, or anything. He wants you to become his friend. Doesn't matter if you're an outright Satanist, killer, whatever. He wants you to become his friend. You're standing at the base of the mountain of relationship. You've seen the demographics, you know the stakes. You can choose to ignore this evidence and remain in the Satanic wilderness away from the mountain, or you can choose to begin the rugged ascent. If you're tired of the noise, the deception, and the emptiness of a world that denies its creator, I invite you to go for it right now. Reach out to Father Yah. Use his true name. Start the 7 components of drawing close. My journey began in a locked hotel room in 1993, and I've never looked back. Your journey can begin right now, exactly where you're sitting. Don't miss the best part of why you're on earth. Become a friend of the Creator and qualify for a high throne that will last for all eternity. I would be delighted to hear from you as you begin this walk. You can reach me on james@etimin.org. The evidence is in. The invitation is open. The choice is yours. Will you seek to become Yah's friend? Pray the prayer following this. Father Yah, I now believe you exist. I commit my life to you. Please accept me. Help me to become your friend. Amen. More detailed prayer follows. Father Yah, I come to you in the name of Yahushua, and I believe that you exist. I confess my sin of unbelief, and I repent of my unbelief, and I ask you to forgive my sin. I now commit my life to you, and I ask you to take me by the hand and lead me into deep relationship with you. I ask you to fill me with your spirit and to change me and help me to become the person you want me to become. I ask you to help me find people who can help me and help me find books, websites, articles, and other resources that will help me. I ask you to show me what I can do to actively serve you and lead others to deep personal relationship with you, and what to do to become your friend. I thank you for saving me. What to do on coming of belief, just repeat. There's a period of 8 days from sincerely coming to belief for the first time, during which there's extreme grace to help you. See the article, Critical Actions on First Belief. Actions you should take immediately. The link is in the comments. Download the ebook, 7 Components and Drawing Close to Yah. That link is also in the comments. You have my permission to use this material as you see fit. The supporting PowerPoint deck that I used to create this video is available for download from the link in the comments. You have my full permission to use this material as you see fit, including reducing scope, extracting subsets, translating, etc., giving only thought to how you will be judged on the day of your judgment. For more information, visit www.etimin.org or email me on james@etimin.org for support and answers to your questions. A link to the PowerPoint show version of this presentation is contained in the comments. So there you have a few links. They're in the PowerPoint show and in the presentation. So that's it, folks. You can contact me on james@etimin.org. ETI standing for End Time Mission Ministries. This is my passion. I work hard in my business to reach people like you. So I really hope that you've stayed with me to the end and that this has benefited you. If you have questions, email me. We can talk on Zoom or phone or whatever. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much. Bye.